Well, we start tonight with Carl Sargeant, and as we've just heard, 2 days before his funeral, the First Minister's confirmed he won't be attending. Karen Jones said he and his wife Lisa respect the wishes of the family and hope they can celebrate Carl's life in peace and without distraction. BBC Wales understands the Labour leader Jeremy Corbyn will be there.
Well, Carl Sargeant was sacked from the cabinet after allegations of inappropriate behaviour. He was found dead just 4 days later. It's thought he took his own life. Karen Jones has been criticised for taking the decision to sack his colleague before the allegations were investigated. He's since ordered an independent inquiry into the matter. So, what is the feeling in Carl Sargeant's old patch? The secretary of his constituency Labour Party has told Wales Live the First Minister has lost the confidence of grassroots members. Paul Martin has been to Connah's Quay.
It's 3 weeks since Carl Sargeant died, a death felt nowhere more keenly than here in his hometown of Connah's Quay, part of the area he'd represented in the Assembly since 2003. What are your memories of him?
Bubbly, funny, very, very caring person. My son had just been diagnosed with autism and I was struggling to get a house, and I went to see Carl Sargeant and he helped me get my house for me and my children.
He was a local guy who looked after the area, had the area's best interest at heart. Everyone knew him and everyone seemed to have respect for him.
On Friday, his friends and family will gather at St Mark's Church in the town for what they want to be a celebration of his life. Carl Sargeant was a Labour town councillor in Connah's Quay before he became an AM, a central part of what some here call the Labour family. They're expecting hundreds here at the Labour Club on Friday afternoon. While people here have been grieving, the fallout from Carl Sargeant's sacking and death has continued, much of it in Cardiff, where today Labour voted down Conservative proposals for a group of AMs to scrutinise Karen Jones about allegations of bullying in his government, allegations that emerged after Carl Sargeant's death. But Karen Jones has, following significant pressure, ordered 2 separate independent inquiries, one looking at the handling of the sacking of Carl Sargeant and another looking more broadly at those bullying allegations. Like Westminster, politics in Cardiff can often feel pretty remote to people in other parts of the country. So how have the developments in the weeks since Carl Sargeant's death felt to people living here? I met up with 2 key figures in the local Labour Party who knew Carl well.
We first met as young children. We joined, or we were born into the Salvation Army locally, where we both attended Sunday school. We both joined the band. Carl played the bass drum and I played the cornet.
He was just a great human being at the end of the day. He wasn't a politician to a lot of people. He was a friend. Even people he'd met just for 5 minutes, you know, they considered him a friend.
But Bernie and Shelley are also angry about the initial handling of the allegations against Carl Sargeant made by several women about his personal conduct.
He was sacked and thrown to the wolves. And what really hurts me is from the minute he was sacked till after his death, nobody from the First Minister's office contacted him or the family. You know, they had a duty of care to my friend and they failed miserably.
Karen Jones has said that he did things by the book and that there's things he can't say at the moment. Do you acknowledge he's in a difficult position?
No, for a man to come out to say Carl was his friend and that they'd had no run-ins or within 14 years of them working together, well, it makes me sick to the core to think he's saying that.
Shelley thinks the First Minister has lost the confidence of members.
At the very least, an inquiry should have been set up immediately. I think his position now is untenable, to be honest with you. Grassroots people have lost confidence in him.
Bernie's now considering leaving Labour. But is the anger here confined to party members, or is it felt more widely?
This Quay Jones got a lot to answer for, I think, and he should stand up and answer the questions that have been asked of him.
The Parliament tonight should get rid of that other guy because I think he's a disgrace.
The strength of feeling here towards the First Minister is in contrast with the measured response so far from Labour AMs. But for many, the sole focus at the moment is Carl Sargeant's funeral. But with the inquiries to come, will that mood change?
Some very strong views there. Well, we asked for a Labour government minister or a Labour backbench AM to come on to Wales Live this evening, but we were told that nobody was available. However, we are joined by our political editor, Nick Savini. Nick, a very good evening to you. Very, very strong views in the North East. And it is striking, isn't it, Nick, to see the difference in the discipline between the Labour AMs in the Senedd to the strength of feeling on the streets of Connah.
Yeah, that's right. They have held it together. I think a number of things have helped, Jason. You know, if you look at an element of the sensitivity that is still held there. No one wants to say anything that could potentially offend the family, and the extent to which we've had to wait this period of time until the funeral certainly has kept a lid on what maybe certain people may or may not have said. I think also within Labour ranks there's a bit of old-fashioned siege mentality, and we saw it this evening in the vote at the Senedd. And we know historically one thing that galvanises Labour politicians is attacks, particularly from the Conservatives. And UKIP's Neil Hamilton today looked across the Labour ranks and described Labour AMs as being Cadwyn's terracotta army, silent and mute. You know, it's a memorable line, but it will succeed in rankling Labour members and maybe holding them together for the time being.
And Nick, how surprising is this decision by the First Minister not to attend the funeral on Friday?
You know, with hindsight, probably not. I think Paul captured the local mood. I spoke to someone pretty senior in the party in Allen and Deeside a few days ago. Now, this was someone who had not called for Carwyn Jones' resignation, and he grimaced when I asked whether the First Minister could go, and he really talked about how difficult it would be. I mean, clearly, if there's one thing that's more difficult for Carwyn Jones than not going, it's going, and it's a huge problem for the family. But a final observation, what a poignant reminder of this tragic situation. We will have the great and the good from the Labour Party. Jeremy Corbyn we're expecting. We will probably have a Conservative Secretary of State there, and yet we will not have the leader of Welsh Labour for the funeral of a man who was hugely tribally loyal to the party across Wales.
Nick Savini, thank you very much.